You are, I think, the chair of the entrepreneurship panel. Is that correct?
Mark, yes, thank you very much indeed. Good afternoon. Yes, I am the chair of the entrepreneurship panel and delighted to have the opportunity to speak with you today in the spotlight.
Great. Well, first of all, just tell me a bit about yourself and where you came from and what what led you up to becoming the chair of the panel.
Yes, well, what led me up to becoming the chair of the panel? I had a pretty standard career in technology. I was very fortunate to have about 20 plus years in six large global public companies. And I guess I was very fortunate that in four of them I was up at the top table. So I knew a lot about running big companies. Outside of that, though, my wife and I have actually built two technology companies from scratch. So this was my sort of entrepreneurial bent. We took the first one with our own money and bootstrapped it, and were fortunate enough to sell to a FTSE 250 after about 4 years. And then after I'd retired from corporate world in the early 2000s, we did it again with another tech company, only this time we raised capital, and then we went on to list that on AIM. So around 2008, about 12 years ago, I thought it was a good idea to not just have our own venture, but actually to put something back. So we've been raising capital now for the last 12 years in a FCA regulated business of our own. But entrepreneurship is something that I live and die with, as it were. I've published books on it, and I'm very supportive of people who have that bent. So
You're eminently qualified. Is the strap line, I suppose.
I guess the question is, are you ever really qualified? And at whatever age you are, however many times you do it, you can always learn something new. And that's really why we have the group.
Good. And tell me now, how long have you been the chair?
I took over in June 2019. So I've been about 18 months in the chair.
And before that, how long were you on the panel?
I joined the panel when I joined the company. So that was 2016. So I've been with the panel from the beginning. I've been chair for the last 18 months.
And tell me a bit about what the panel does and how it does it, so to speak.
Well, the panel was first created around 2005, I believe. And the objective was that we had a growing number of members in the company that were running their own businesses. And they were looking for a bit of help and support. And as a result, the entrepreneurship panel was formed, I guess initially as a sort of quasi-technical and quasi-consulting group to help people who had their own businesses. But as time's gone on, one of the interesting things about the entrepreneurship group and what makes it slightly different to the others is the extent to which it crosses over with people outside of the company. So in fact, there's been this two-way traffic really, and it's something that I have certainly tried to do during my tenure over the last 18 months to increase the amount of exposure we have to people outside the company, but also promote ourselves to those outside the company. So we get a bigger marketing, if you like, about some of the great things that are done by the WCIT.
And has that been working?
So far, it's been working pretty well. I guess when I took over the panel, the thing I wanted to do from the outset was to make sure that we had the people who were really interested in being involved in doing something. It's quite easy with some of the panels just to have people who are a member but not very active. So we tried to work out those people who were active and wanted to be involved and to do something. And then we tried to create new activities which would support the objectives that we had for the panel.
How many panel members do you have, roughly?
Today we have 53. I'd like to think that all of those are active. We've just run a survey to get some feedback as we start the current year. And we had a very good response. So it sounds as though most of them are reasonably active.
And how do you find, I mean, are you advising companies outside outside the company, so to speak, outside the WCIT? And if so, how do you find those people?
Well, I guess the best way to answer your question is really to look at some of the initiatives that we have underway. And if it's okay, I might just cover those now, actually, and explain to you what we've been doing. One of the initiatives I created before I became chair was called Growth Tech. And the objective with Growth Tech was to look at the near-term issues that were affecting IT businesses from a specific sector standpoint. So that would be fintech, media tech, legal tech, and so on. And the objective here was we would bring in 3 entrepreneurs from outside and 1 keynote speaker from outside to speak about this topic. They'd all get 10 minutes max. And with your good self in the chair, as it were, just trying to keep things under wraps, we gave people around half an hour, 40 minutes to do some networking. Then we'd have a maximum of an hour with the presentations and questions, and then another half an hour over a glass of wine to discuss things afterwards. The objective was to have people within the panel attending that so they could provide their feedback, but obviously people from outside as well. And that's grown beyond belief, really, over the number we've done. We've completed 10 now, and we're doing number 11 in March 2021.
And has it worked in lockdown?
It's worked almost better in lockdown. We were constrained to 55 people in the hall. I can tell you that on the 3rd of March 2020, so just before the first lockdown, we had the full house, 55 in the hall. We were completely maxed out, which is interesting when you consider what happened on the 23rd of March, but that's by the by. But since then, the 2 events that we've ran while we've been in lockdown and had to do them virtually, the last one we had 110 people register for it.
Fantastic.
And then we had something like 75 online. So it's been quite interesting to see how it's grown.
Very good. And what other initiatives are going on?
Well, another initiative outside of that we've called Inspire Tech. We're keeping the tech word there, so Inspire Tech. This was a bit of a piece from myself, I guess. I did publish a book many years ago where we were looking at the 10% of entrepreneurs who were successful. And I stumbled across a piece of research in early 2019 that was indicating figures haven't changed a lot. It said that of a cohort of about 900 well-respected, been running for a decade tech companies, and all of which had had private equity investment, about 12% had succeeded in exiting, and about 10 or 12% had failed. But the middle part, the 75%, were still running. And it crossed my mind that maybe they need inspiring. We perhaps need to try and find a way to give them some inspiration. So we created Inspire Tech, and within that, we've created a series of areas which we believe are not a panacea, but there are a number of actions that you could take in your business to move it from one that's perhaps in that mid-ground of 75, hopefully into that sort of 10, 12% where you could get an exit. Right. So we created initially a spreadsheet, passed it around our own members and got feedback.
I seem to remember I did a test run as well.
You did indeed, Mark, and excellent your feedback was too. And as a result, we have now done a sample of about 15, and I have to say the feedback's been great. But what we now need to do is to push that on into the marketplace. So part of 2021 is to make sure that we do that. And I'm hopeful that that initiative will not only get more people from outside the company to work with us, but at the same time, it will promote WCIT and increase our membership.
Good. And hopefully, as you say, it might make some businesses more successful.
Let's hope so. It's good for the British economy that if we do that.
What are your ambitions for the panel?
Well, in terms of the ambitions, I'd like to see the Inspire Tech and the Growth Tech, and hopefully, when we can all get together again, the Tech Awards, which are a big initiative within the entrepreneurship panel and did generate an awful lot of money, our black tie event each year. It would be good to be able to see all of those help businesses, particularly smaller businesses and entrepreneurs to move on. But outside of that, the other ambition is really for our own members to become more successful. And this year, in 2021, our main themes are finding great talent and raising capital, because certainly in my experience, they're the 2 things that keep entrepreneurs awake at night. So most of our events and the information that we're providing to people are around those areas.
I would agree with that, having been involved in a number of startups, not just tech ones, but I think that's true throughout. And I know that actually people like salespeople acquiring them over recent years has been really hard. It's got a bit easier perhaps recently. And tell me now, are you still looking for new members? And if so, what are the sort of qualities you are looking for?
We definitely are still looking for new members, that's for sure. Under the terms of reference that I created or revised when I took over the chairmanship of this group, we're really looking for people who are currently entrepreneurs, or people who have been entrepreneurs, or they advise and or support entrepreneurs.
So you want to pass on their wisdom.
That's exactly right. Yeah. But they could be people who have perhaps maybe have set up their own business and are now entrepreneurs, and they want help and support.
Okay, great. And tell me, sort of finally, what do you think the panel's greatest achievement has been?
That's a very interesting one. I guess if I looked at it in recent terms, I'd like to think that what we're doing with Growth Tech is one of those that will be long-standing. I mean, as I mentioned, by the end of 2021, we hope we'll have then run 13 events. So that's a pretty good position, given it came from a standing start just a few years ago. And if we can keep that moving on, then hopefully we can not only fill the hall, but when we're all back to normal again and the pandemic's over, we can have virtual people as well at the same time. So who knows, we could then perhaps get our regular 100 plus people attending the event.
Thank you, Les. Thank you very much for giving us some time. Very interesting, and I hope this will inspire both new members and also, I think as the term I've used, existing members who want a new career within the WCIT to join the panel.
Mark, thank you very much indeed for giving me the opportunity to speak today. It's been great.